Okay, we're live now, Pat. You can go ahead.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Fenestration Canada webinar. I'm Pat Flannery from Fenestration Review magazine. With me today is Stefan Labelle from Fenestration Canada. Hi, Stefan.
Hey, Pat.
And our very special guest today is Chris Crown from Canadian Federation of Independent Business. We're going to get to Chris in just a moment, but first a little bit of housekeeping. We're sponsored as always by UL Labs and Quanex. Thanks very much to them for supporting the cast. And the way this is going to work today is Stefan and I are going to have a conversation with Chris, but Chris is going to start us out with some introductory remarks because we really have a very exciting topic today. Fenestration Canada and the CFIB have joined into a partnership. They're going to be working together more closely. I think a lot of us have been really impressed with the work that CFIB has been doing across the country during this pandemic. And I think we're really glad to have their assistance and have their support at this time. So with that, let's say hi to Chris Crown. He is the Manager of National Partnerships for CFIB. Hi, Chris.
Hey, Patrick. Hi, Stefan. How are you?
It's great to see you, Chris. I guess let's get you to start us off with telling us, I guess, first of all, a little bit about CFIB. I think you have a short presentation to share, and then we're going to be bringing questions in at various times during the presentation. If anybody has a question they want to send to Chris, hit the Q&A button down on your bottom bar. Or if I don't know, Stefan, are we patching people in?
Yeah, if people want to, if they want to talk to us directly on the line, we can patch them in.
There you go.
And
so
if they're too shy, we can go ahead and use the Q&A. Yeah,
and read out the text questions.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
so it'll work either way. So with that, Chris, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you give us the 30,000 foot on CFIB and what you offer your members and us.
Excellent. Thanks, Pat. Well, we're really excited at CFIB to have Fenestration Canada as partners. As Pat said, we've joined together in a partnership, and what that essentially means is that every single Fenestration Canada member across the country now has full access to the benefits of a CFIB membership. And that's what we're going to talk about today, what those benefits are, and just as importantly, how you access those benefits. Now, I put my email on this first slide here because initially I can be the first point of contact for any questions that you have ongoing around this program. So without further ado, let's start moving. So a little bit of CFIB history. We were founded in actually the late 1960s, early 1970s by John Bullock. John initially formed the Canadian Council for Fair Taxation. And that was after he read about a budget proposal which was going to increase small business taxes to 50%. John ran a small tailor shop in downtown Toronto, or his parents did, and he realized that this piece of legislation was going to be bad for all small business owners. So he started to push back, and the photograph here, which is really interesting, has come out of our archives. It's from late 1960s, probably 69. It's at the Royal York, downtown Toronto. This is one of the earliest meetings of CFIB. The funny story with this is at the end of each meeting, John would pass around the hat and collect donations. And really, that's what funded his mission across the country. And here we are, we're coming up to our 50th anniversary. We have 110,000 businesses as members. So that's not individuals, that's businesses. It means that CFIB is the largest per capita independent business advocacy group in the world. So a few things that are good to know. We really are non-partisan. We do not care about the color of government that's in power at any specific time at the federal or the provincial level. If we see good legislation, we call it good. If we see bad, we call it bad. And we work on a one member, one vote principle. So you guys, our members, dictate our position on any issue. And I'll show you how we do that in a moment. We have our head office, which is at the Yonge Street in 401 in Toronto, and then bilingual offices right across all of the provinces. Only privately held Canadian-owned businesses can join CFIB, so Coca-Cola cannot be a CFIB member. And we are 100% funded by our members. We have never accepted government funding. On many occasions we've been offered. We've always declined, we always will. The simple reason being is that advocacy is the core of the organization. We really don't feel that we can advocate for small businesses against government if we're receiving funding from that same government. So I mentioned that you guys decide which issues we stand up for. And we do that, one way we do that is via a document called Mandate. You're going to receive this quarterly, usually by email, but if you prefer by mail. And it's important that you respond to this document. It's going to have a series of 2 or 3 topical issues that could be affecting small business owners at that time. And we would invite you to respond to those questions in a very straightforward way. We're not sending loaded questions or anything like that. It's all very straightforward. There's an indication of how we see that issue, and we ask for your response. And it's important because it tells us 2 things. One is it tells us what's really important to small business owners at that particular time, because we can't fight every battle. There's too much going on. The second thing is, where do you lean? What's your position on that specific issue? So that gives us direction on what way we should be lobbying the federal or the provincial governments in the interest of our members. As a member, you'll also receive our monthly newsletter, and this will give you information. For instance, this one was just prior to Canada Day, so it was giving some information around how to pay your employees over Canada Day. It's going to tell you any new savings programs that we have in place, any new webinars that we're coming up, all of that kind of thing. It's kind of the newspaper for CFIB. It's very quick to digest. If you can kind of read the headlines and then get more information if there's something specific that kind of jumps out at you. So really that's the advocacy part of the organization. We have a team of 30 people in our advocacy team, and we'll be partnering with Fenestration Canada to take issues that you guys have as members right to the top of the federal and provincial governments and try and move those issues forward. So this is, as we move into the next section, this is a good spot to pick up any questions so far.
You can go ahead, Pat.
No, you can go ahead, Pat.
Yep.
Okay.
Well, just yeah, even on the advocacy side, Chris, I guess before we move on to the rest of the thing, the thing that was, so much has changed in this pandemic, and like so many things have emerged that were already there that are just massively accelerated, it seems, by this thing. And one of the amazing transformations, I guess I would say, for me, was the absolute criticality of the CFIB has just emerged from this thing, because I see everybody turning to Dan and to you guys to try to get a perspective of what small business needs in all this. And it just seems like again and again, you guys have come out with a position, and 2 or 3 days later, the feds are just doing it. And I realize it probably doesn't feel like that to you guys, but from the outside looking in, it has appeared that way. Well, have you guys felt that there's been a real rise in the importance of the organization in all of this?
Absolutely, and kind of joking aside, there was a point a couple of weeks back where I wondered if there were actually 3 Dan Kellys, because he seemed to be everywhere. He seemed to be in more than one place at the same time. Advocacy, as I mentioned, is the core of the organization. On any given month, we'll have 30 or 40 meetings with key government officials at the federal or provincial level. We're also meeting with 4,000 business owners on a regular basis. So we become very much a conduit between small business owners and government. Over this COVID crisis, we have been in contact with senior officials at least daily, in many cases hourly. And we've had organizations come to us We work with the Pet Industry Association, for example, the Health Food Industry Association. They've come to us with specific issues. We've directed those to the key personnel within the federal government. And like you say, Patrick, the changes have happened the next day. But it's a lot of work and you have to keep at them because nothing changes without a lot of persistence. So it's good that you've recognized that. The prominence of the association of CFIB has really grown over the last few weeks. I almost wish it hadn't, because it would have meant that we didn't have a crisis. But on the other hand, it means that at least small business owners and our members in particular know that there's a body that's standing up for them and pushing really hard.
I think it's a good moment for me to chime in and just mention that I did have some meetings with the CFIB advocacy team, guys who work directly with government bodies, and about COVID-19, but also after. So the strength of advocacy within CFIB is going to be of a great use for FenCan too. Like even for specific issues, we can work together. It doesn't need to be always general. Even for specific stuff to the window and door industry, we'll be able to work together, which is great.
Cool.
Absolutely, and we would encourage that.
Let's get into more of that later. But first of all, Chris, go ahead with your presentation.
Okay, thanks. So in my opinion, the biggest benefit to your members is around the advice and information that they can now get free of charge via our business counselors team around things such as government compliance, government regulations, or human resources issues. So my background is a small business owner. I've bought and sold 2 businesses in my past. Both of those businesses are still successfully trading. One would be coming up to 30 years now, and the other one would be around 15 years. I wish I'd had the assistance of CFIB when I was a small business owner. This type of service, I think it's unique. It's very unusual because it's one-on-one advice. So we have a team of business counselors spread out across the country. There's around 26 of them. And in the normal course of a year, they would handle 40,000 cases. Now, a case isn't a phone call. A case is a case from start to finish. I have a problem employee. I don't know how to deal with that. And it's the process that you will go through in order to manage that situation. You can get one-on-one expert advice on that. Now, normally we handle 40,000 cases a year. At the moment, we're handling 1,000 calls per day. We have 100 staff answering calls, and our live answering rate is hovering around 80% at the moment. So we're managing to actually pick up the phone and speak to people as their concerns come into the office. On a normal business day, we can answer very simple questions. They can become very complex issues, such as human rights cases, that kind of thing. But pretty much from sun up to sundown in Canada, you can pick up the phone and you can speak to a real live person in French or English about any of your compliance, regulation, human resources issues, and of course your COVID questions. We're getting a ton of questions at the moment around the government support programs for wages and rent, so those subsidy programs. Businesses are moving back to work now, so we're getting a lot of questions around that. You can get real live advice at the end of a telephone. It's confidential as well, which for COVID isn't quite so important. But let's say, for instance, I don't know, you have a problem with the CRA. You were going to pick up the phone and call the CRA because you have a tax question. And that can present some problems. One is we know that the CRA aren't particularly good at answering the telephone. 2, a large percentage of the advice that they can give can be inaccurate or incomplete. And 3, it will be recorded. That question will be recorded on your file. And if you have an audit at some point down the line, that question could come back and bite you. Well, by routing that question through a CFIB business counselor, we can ask the CRA that question on your behalf, and therefore you remain anonymous. So you get the accurate response. We know who to speak to get the right answer to that specific question. We pass that information on to you, but the CRA never knows who asked that question. So it's not going to bite you, you know where, when you get your audit in 2 or 3 years' time. All of this is available at no cost. Business owners, CFIB members can call as often as they like about any business related issue, and there's absolutely no cost. The number that you would call is the 1-888 number that's on your screen there. And on our website, there's also an email box that you can complete, send that in to us. And you can even ask for a callback at a specific time. I want to call on Thursday at 4 o'clock, for instance, and the counselor will call you back and discuss your issue. This is a unique service. I think this alone is worth every penny of a CFIB membership. So these are the types of questions that our business counselors handle on a day-to-day basis. At the moment, of course, top left, COVID-19, I would say 95% of our calls are based around COVID at the moment. But in a normal situation, we get a lot of questions around employment standards, around workers' comp, how to complete a record of employment, occupational health and safety, EI and EI for family members. That's a whole different subject. But there's a lot of, this is kind of the full, this is all of the stuff that gets in the way of you running your business, selling whatever it is you need to sell to generate an income. This stuff kind of gets in the way. Well, now you have a central location that you can call and get expert advice on any of this stuff. In addition to the live advice, we have a suite of templates that are available. We call them plug and play. It's really the shortest route to compliance. So you can go in and you can, so for instance, the compliance sheet you see on your left of your screen is a general compliance checklist. So you would download this and it's kind of tick box fashion. You go through and you think, well, yeah, maybe I'm lacking in the harassment policy area. So maybe I should call CFIB and see what other information they have around harassment in the workplace. What I would suggest to your members is not to download all of these templates and try and work through them, but download this kind of general template, take a look at that, and where you think you may have a problem, then call a business counselor and kind of run through it with the counselor, because they'll have a lot of information and a lot of pointers as to what you should focus on. So the next time you get your compliance inspector visit, he's not going to have any boxes with big red crosses in, and you're going to avoid those non-compliance fines, which can range from anywhere up to $10,000. So this is a great way to start that route to being completely in compliance. Around half of those 40,000 calls that I mentioned earlier, or 40,000 cases, are based on human resources issues. So we have a whole suite of templates, again, that are HR focused. So they would tell you, for example, what you can and cannot say in a recruitment ad. What types of questions can you not ask at an interview? There's an employment offer letter, which is a template. You can download it, adjust it to suit your business, and you're good to go. There's an employment contract. A lot of small businesses still run without contracts of employment, and it's critical that you have an employment contract in place for every employee. We have a template. Again, you can download it free of charge, adapt it to suit your business, and you're good to go. What you can and can't say in a job description. And if you do get to the point where you have a problem employee and you need to discipline or dismiss that employee, what is the exact process that you need to go through to remain in compliance? And we can give you that information. We can even work through it with you. There's also a lot of information around stuff that isn't a requirement. You're not going to have a compliance inspector come in and say, well, where is your social media policy? But they're really nice to have. We've seen a lot of businesses, let's say a rogue employee goes out and posts something on Facebook or on Twitter or even LinkedIn, a message that's detrimental to your business. It's not the type of messaging that you want your customers seeing, and yet it's out there on social media. If you put in place a social media policy, this is just for an example, make sure that your employees have read that social media policy, signed off that they've read the social media policy. You can virtually eliminate that employee going out and posting something on Twitter, a message that's detrimental to your business. Again, it's not essential, but it's a real nice to have. And all of this is available to CFIB members completely free of charge as a download. And of course, you can get the expert advice from a business counselor should you need it. So again, that's talking about our business counselors and how they can help a business through the Monday to Friday, or in many cases, the Saturday to Saturday of running their business. So do we have any questions on that section, Patrick?
Well, I mean, I wanted to comment that I thought I just think that is an incredible service. You know, one of the applications of it, and I run into it in my line of work, is the impossibility of getting straight answers out of government officials sometimes. You know, and you think back to the start of the pandemic and when they were designating businesses essential or not, right? And I know you guys aren't in the business of giving legal advice, but it was a circumstance where you could go, if you went to the actual person even making the announcement on behalf of the provincial government, they would not say anything outside of what was already in the press release. And hopefully, and tell me if I'm right here, Chris. I mean, my vision of this is that a small business owner at least could call you guys and get some perspective on what the government might have meant by this. You know,
you know, the interesting thing there, Patrick, is exactly that happened, but with a twist. So business owners were calling us and they were saying, well, this wage subsidy program, what if this? Mm-hmm. So we didn't know the answer because it had literally been announced half an hour before. So we would get in touch with the ministry and we would have the conversation, and they didn't know the answer.
Right.
So because the question had never been asked, no one had thought of that. So we saw those answers evolving because of the questions that we were asking on behalf of our members. So there was a really interesting dynamic that COVID has kind of accentuated as to how that kind of those problems were solved. So yeah, that's exactly what happened. And you did mention something there, Patrick, that I just want to touch on. We do not offer legal advice or accounting advice. So we get you up to the point where you may need a lawyer or you may need an accountant. And we can point you in the right direction. We can show you where to get access to legal or accounting advice, but we don't give that advice. Mm-hmm. But let's say, for instance, again, it's a problem employee that you have. We can get you to the point where when you go to the lawyer, everything is in place. So instead of getting maybe 25 or 30 billable hours on that case, you may get 5. So it's going to reduce the amount that you need your accountant or your lawyer as you go through those processes.
I just want to mention too that all these services provided by CFIB now are part of your FenCan membership. So, you know, Chris, you mentioned that the service just by itself, the business consultant service is worth the money. Well, it's even more worth the money now because for FenCan members, it's totally free. So, which is another good perk.
You know, it's fantastic that Fenestration Canada are willing to give this value to their members. We see a lot of very progressive groups and associations across Canada, and some of the largest franchise groups in the country, the likes of Dairy Queen, etc., provide this kind of benefit to their members or their franchisees. So it really does show that Fenestration Canada, as a group and as a group across the country, really have the best interest of their members at heart, and that's critical, especially at this time.
Yes. It's a significant benefit, Chris, because, you know, before window and door manufacturers were stuck calling Stefan for advice, and that never worked out, you know, really very well at all.
Well, maybe now you have your answer why we decided to go this route. I'm like, okay.
All right, enough of that.
We're happy to plug the gap. So we mentioned that you know, the business counselors is worth every penny, in my opinion, of the CFIB membership, but many CFIB members actually generate money from their CFIB membership program using the savings programs that I'll speak about in a moment. We're running really short on time, so I'm going to skip through this pretty quickly. One of the main problems that we hear, maybe prior COVID, was attracting and retaining skilled labor was always an issue. So CFIB have partnered with VUBiz, the Virtual University of Business, and they provide online courses to CFIB members absolutely free. It would normally cost around $1,800 to $2,000 per person that takes a course. You can have all of your employees on these courses and it won't cost you a cent. They're online, so you can take them any time of the day or night, any day of the year. Take anywhere from half an hour to 5 hours to complete a course. And these are all of the courses that are available. Courses are added all the time. A lot of these courses businesses are paying for, such as the WMIS courses, that kind of thing. All of these are completely free to CFIB members. And the natural progression for us was to go the next step, which was to group those courses into certificate programs. There are 4 of these: health and safety, business marketing, sales, human resources, and business management. Now, these are not free, but they are heavily subsidized, from around $300 to $69 for CFIB members and your employees. The beauty of these is that when your employee completes one of these courses, not only do they get the certificate saying you've passed, the health and safety course, but you gain a credit that can be used at Athabasca University, which is the leading Canadian online university. So this is a great way, like if you took all 4 of these, or an employee took all 4 of these, for less than $300, they can have the equivalent of their first semester at university, which I wish I could have got that for my son at $300. But where we're seeing the smart users of this product is at the interview point, the point of interview. They have a promising candidate come in. Typically, these guys are still in education mode. They're just out of further education. They're very tuned in to how am I going to progress through online learning. And this shows that you have something in place ready to go the minute they start work. This means that that potential candidate is far more likely to take your offer of employment as opposed to someone else's who doesn't have this in place, because they realize that they can accelerate through your business much quicker because you have the programs in place to do that. Of course, that's good for them because their hourly rate goes up, they have more skills. It's good for you because they're doing higher value tasks for your business and making more money for you as a business owner. So I would take a good look at these training programs and certificate programs. Excellent value for money there. In addition to those programs, we run a series of CFIB webinars. At the moment, we're running 3 a week. We're getting around 2,000 to 2,500 businesses every webinar. All of these are COVID related. We also did one with the CRA, a joint webinar with CRA, which is posted on our website. In fact, what I'll do is I'll send into Fenestration Canada the links to those latest webinars and the CRA webinar, just so that you can forward those to your members. But typically we'll run webinars around things such as anti-spam law, red tape in the business, credit card processing contracts. The one at the bottom there, EI premium for family members, we don't have time to talk about it today, but it's a very common problem for business owners who employ family members and make the usual EI premium deduction every pay cycle. That you may not be, probably shouldn't be doing that. And there's a webinar that explains that. And if Fenestration Canada kind of wants some more information about that, I'm happy to set up a call with you guys to kind of run through the basics of that.
Sure.
The last area I want to talk about really quickly, we have about 3 or 4 minutes left. This is where a CFIB member can actually make money out of their CFIB membership. We have a series of savings programs. We have a full-time team of 7 who work on these programs. It's pretty easy for us to get to best-in-class pricing because we have the volume. 110,000 potential customers really stimulates any provider to get down to the lowest price. But what these guys really work on is contracts that are friendly for small businesses. So what I mean by that is no exit penalties, easy in, easy out, minimal small print, that kind of thing. This is not a profit center for CFIB. All of the savings we negotiate go direct to our members. And these are the programs we have in place at the moment. Top center there, we have Chase Paymentech. We've worked with Chase for about 15 years. We have a really good suite of credit card processing rates for independent companies. Again, it's easy in, easy out. You can leave Chase whenever you like. There's no exit penalties. They don't lease you terminals. They rent them to you, so you can cut that when you're done with that terminal. It's a great program, could be worth looking into. We don't have time to talk about all of these. I'm going to skip through 4 of them really, really quickly. These are the ones that typically members jump on, and they're great programs. Payworks is a Canadian-owned online payroll company. I use it as an employee. CFIB use this. It's really easy to use. It's heavily discounted for CFIB members. We've had groups partner with CFIB just to get the discount code for Payworks, and that more than pays for their membership. It's great. You can book your vacation time on there. You can see how much vacation time you've got left. You can download all of your government documents. I did my taxes this week. I downloaded all my documents direct from Payworks. It's very, very easy to use. Typically, if you're using ADP or someone like that, you could save up to 40%. ShipTime is an online shipping platform for inbound and outbound shipping, less than a truckload. It works similar way to how Expedia would work if you wanted to book a hotel or a flight. It kind of gathers all of the information from all of the major Canadian shippers, gives you the best rate, discounts it for CFIB members. And what I hear from members, why they like this, is they don't need to have a Canada Post, a UPS, and a Purolator account. They do everything through ShipTime. It's one account, and you can get your quote, you can pay, you can track your shipment, you can download all your documentation, even if it's going cross-border, or your customs documentation, that kind of thing. And their back-end support is really strong. You can pick up the phone and talk to someone. So if your parcel is delayed, etc., ShipTime are very, very good at that. Again, it's a heavily used program by CFIB members. Email marketing. Any small business should be running a good, strong email marketing program to communicate with their customers. We partner with Cyber Impact. It's Canadian owned, it's Canadian located. So any information that you store in their cloud resides in Canada, which is very important for CASL, Canadian Anti-Spam Law. Heavily discounted for CFIB members, and you can try it out with a significant number of customers. I think it's 200. Don't quote me on that, but up to 200 customers, you can use the base version. It doesn't cost you a cent. So you can kind of try out email marketing. You know, I've got a special offer in January, or I want to give away a window with every 10 or something like that. You can try it out, see if it works before it costs you anything. So it's really easy entry. And the last one I want to speak about really quickly, it's a relatively new partnership, but the uptake has been tremendous, is with Quickbooks. Quickbooks own the small business marketplace for online accounting software. If you're using that online version, even if you're already using it, you can get a 20% discount off of your monthly fee. If you're not using Quickbooks, but you want to transition to that, you also get, in addition to that 20% discount, $120 in gift cards. And they're very good at supporting businesses through that transition. I know what it's like to move your software from one program to another. It's no fun. QuickBooks are very good at kind of helping that transition be as smooth as possible. There's a lot of information around the various savings programs that we have. We have pretty much unique telephone numbers for each of the programs. We've done that so that you don't have to go through the process of calling a central number and kind of explaining you're a CFIB member, and I understand there's a program, and then you get transferred and da-da-da-da-da. Here, you call that number, you speak to someone who knows the program, understands it. They will check your CFIB membership with us, and then once that's verified, they will extend the program to you. If you do have any problems or any questions about any of these programs, any business resource questions, in fact, any question CFIB related, the number is a central number, which is 1-888-234-2232. Everything is done through one central telephone number. Now I'm just going to slip back one slide, because this email will be coming out to members very, very soon. It's very, very important. We call it our welcome email. It comes from one of the 3 Dan Kellys that I mentioned earlier. And it's important because it's going to have your unique CFIB member ID. Incidentally, if you're already a CFIB member prior to the Fenestration Canada partnership, your CFIB member ID remains the same. It's also going to contain your temporary password to the member portal. And I would suggest that you go into that member portal, and when you're in there, change your password to something that's unique to you. And you can also change in there the way that CFIB communicates with you. So maybe you want this particular document to come to you and another person within your organization. Maybe you don't want it at all. Maybe you want it to go to someone else. Maybe you want it by mail instead of email. All of those, you can kind of fine tune how we communicate with you, because we don't want to be bugging you with stuff that you have no interest in. So keep an eye out for this email. What we'll also do very soon, once we've allocated all those IDs, is I'll make sure that Jennifer sends to Fenestration Canada a list of those ID numbers so that you have those numbers on file as well. Other than that, I'll click to the last slide, because this shows you how to contact us. I think this is a good opportunity to tie up with kind of any last questions, Patrick.
Yeah, I'm amazed at. I really like how you guys always seem to have thought of everything. Imagine having a separate phone number for each of the different purchasing discount benefits. That's a great idea, and it must save people a lot of time on the phone. Stefan, have you got anything coming in there?
No questions from the attendees. One thing I want to mention though is, like you were mentioning these specific phone numbers, but it's important too, because I know of some members, Fenestration Canada members, who were or are CFIB members right now, and they said, "Oh yeah, like do that partnership because of the Chase payment system, for example, we're saving more money than what it cost us. So now, not only they're saving the money, but they don't need to pay the membership, the CFIB membership on top of the FenCan membership, so they're saving more. So that might be a reason why you have all these specific numbers, because if these programs give, as much benefits per program, I think they have dedicated teams for each programs, right?
Yeah, it's incredible. I think it's a neat idea among everything else.
Yeah.
Well, listen, guys, we're over time here, but I just think this is really an exciting piece of news, and just a great partnership for both organizations. Chris, I want to thank you very much for your time today and giving us the overview. People can see there how to get a hold of you, and we really look forward to seeing how this relationship goes going forward.
Excellent, and I really look forward to a point in time where perhaps we have a conference somewhere across Canada and we can actually meet face to face. Wouldn't that be nice?
Won't that be unusual? And there is such a conference, and at this point it's still scheduled for this year, but we'll see how everything rolls out in Montreal over the weeks and months ahead. I'm speaking, of course, about Windor. What's the date on that, Stefan? Still at this point?
Well, it's still November, so the exact date, I think it's the 18th. But we're trying really hard to still put the show to host the show. We'll see what happens. But we want to give you the opportunity to wear your suit like at least once a year, Pat. So we don't want to cancel the show just yet.
I'm counting on it, man. I gotta get that sucker out of mothballs. Listen, let's wrap it up here. Let's say thanks very much to UL and Quanex once again for helping us out with the Fenestration in Canada podcast. Thanks again to Chris Crown and the Canadian Federation of Independent Business for this partnership and for telling us all about it today. Certainly we'll be hearing more about this in the days and weeks to come. So bye-bye for now from me, Pat Flannery, and
Stefan Abel.
thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Chris.
Take care.